No, you're right there. And
I can't.
we're going to Paris
Same.
there. That one this direction. We're going to let him sit there and you sit
Oh,
there.
sorry, I thought you were saying, I was asking if this was the youth.
Yeah.
Work together. But it's okay.
Oh.
Hey.
You're left here, Jim.
Oh, you can't see my mouth first.
Oh,
I like
God. And all that, we have a mess. It's fun to watch her afterwards. Hey, Chief.
How you doing, John?
Good,
thank you.
My facial expression, just like, you can't see that, can you?
Your dog swallow something? He was taking prednisone or something for everything. Yeah, I didn't know while I was loading my truck. I'm gonna go pay to have this. It's like about a plane ticket. Yeah, time has moved along. You're not expecting Adam?
I wasn't expecting him to, I wasn't expecting him. We haven't heard anything. So Pat won't be here.
Okay. All right, I guess, are you ready? All right, time is 7:01. Call the regular meeting of the Nome Common Council for Monday, October 25, 2021 to order. Mr. Clerk, would you call the roll to establish a quorum?
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Henderson is excused. Councilmember Doug Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Mark Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Martinson. Councilmember Topcock. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Moving on then to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as submitted? Motion to adopt the agenda is submitted. Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Doug Johnson, Councilmember Brown. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Doug Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Mark Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Topcock. Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That brings us then on to the oath of office for the youth representative who the school has selected, Paris Hebel currently. Paris, we welcome you, and if you would come on up here, the city clerk will administer the oath of office.
You'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Paris Hebel,
I, Paris Siebel,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the laws of the state of Alaska,
the laws of the state of Alaska,
and the ordinances of the municipality of Nome,
and the ordinances of the municipality of Nome,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
honestly and faithfully discharge the duties of my office
honestly and faithfully discharge the duties of my office
of City of Nome Youth Representative
of City of Nome Youth Representative
without fear,
without fear,
favor,
favor,
or partiality,
or partiality,
and therein do every justice,
and therein to do every justice,
to all persons and to the city,
to all persons and to the city,
so help me God.
so help me God.
You'd like to take a seat by Councilmember Topcroft?
Thank you, and welcome Representative Hebel. Glad to have you here. Glad that the school selected somebody to represent them at our council meetings here. And Councilmember Topcock is the one that is willing to take the student rep under the tutelage. And therefore, we've set you next to her. Feel free to ask any questions that you have through the process. Or if Councilmember Topcock, you can direct them to her or to myself. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, moving on to the approval of minutes. We have our October 11th, 2021 regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion to adopt these minutes as submitted?
Motion to adopt the minutes from
October 11th.
October 11th.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Doug Johnson, Councilmember Topcock. If there are no noted corrections or changes to the minutes other than ministerial, I ask for a roll call, please, on their adoption.
Councilmember Doug Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Mark Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Topcroft. Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to communications, we have 3 in our packet and 2 at least that were received post packet production. First one is from Melissa Ford, thanking the city for the improvement on the property record search capability and suggesting a streamlining and availability of sales tax collection and payments through the web. Next communication is from the Nome Community Center to the manager regarding the Housing First Partnership. Ms. Schneider has made a presentation previously on this, and within this letter also lays out a timeline and a suggestion or a desire to collaborate with others in the community to make this a reality.
Can I just ask where we're at in terms of, the city's efforts with houselessness and working with Nome Community Center?
Well, first of all, Nest opens up on next Monday. And obviously, we've been working with Nest in our most recent grant, which we received. We gave $25,000, which you approved from her to the community center. And we are still working with them. These meetings that the mayor and I have been coordinating every 6 weeks to 2 months have also been able to put the Nome Community Center in contact with other resources in the community that could bring some cash to this. The question is that they need, I believe it's 21,000 square feet of land to place the facility. And the issue right now also will be where it goes. Will we have to extend water and sewer to it? So these are all up in the air. They have received, I think it says in the letter, $1.5 million in funding towards the project. And I think that's pretty good summation. Yes, we do communicate. We always are looking for money for the community shelter center if we become aware of it. Okay, because it's a priority for the staff here at City Hall, because a lot of calls and demands on our police department and ambulance service are unfortunately due to some members of our community that have serious problems. And I want to acknowledge, because we just had a meeting of the Unified Command an hour and a half ago. Since AC has instituted the one bottle per customer at their facility across the street, and Julius, the manager there, has been very aggressive in terms of positive management of runners and everything else. Our calls on Front Street are down 50%. And I don't want to, and it was also stated at the same meeting that we are now seeing a line of people waiting for the bus around 9 o'clock in the morning out in front of the visitor center to catch the bus up to Norton Sound's day shelter. And I think the numbers are going up, obviously, because it's now getting colder out. But I do believe that's a positive. And we have talked with, just to add something, we have talked with the hospital today about doing booster shots, because this portion of our community has a weakened immune system. And actually, we are starting to see that there are more and more homeless that are coming down with COVID, even with having vaccinations. So that just gives you a quick thumbnail sketch of what's going on and what we're doing from the city staff perspective.
Leona, yeah, I just wanted to reiterate my own support, I guess, for the Housing First model. I know it's noted in their communications, but there have been studies that show that it's often much more effective and also decreases costs on municipalities. And they're, like any of our citizens, incredibly important and completely deserving of all of the attention that we can and resources that we can give to them. Especially, you've heard Rhonda Schneider express this before, a very large population or portion of them are Alaska Native, many of whom have experienced trauma in our own community. And historically, their ancestors, I'm sure, just like mine, have experienced trauma that's been perpetuated by the state and the city. And so I think it's incredibly important that we make this a priority. And just looking forward to how we can partner with the Nome Community Center to make Housing First a reality.
Well, I do want to emphasize we are working with them and we are partnering with them. I want to make sure everybody understands that. The question is going to get down to, how is that partnership? I mean, we are supporting them in whatever efforts that they do. We will be talking with Wendy Chamberlain because we have to talk about teacher housing needs too in the upcoming months. Then it gets into a question, does the city want to make a cash contribution to the facility or make a commitment to the construction of the facility? And that's a decision that I think you should be discussing when you have your discussions, hopefully on long-term planning, whether it be in December or January, so the staff can have an understanding where you want to move with the financial resources of the city. Okay? All right.
Great, thank you. Moving back to communications, the next communication that we have is from the Alaska, or the Alcohol and Marijuana Control Office, noting the renewal application for the license of the Grass Station LLC, which is the pot shop that operates here in the old library and museum building. Mr. Chief, are you aware of any reason why we should make notice to the board on this license, or are they operating within standards?
We've had no problem, sir.
Great. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
All right, the other communications we received were by email. One from Justin Nosker, and his communication is not debating merits of masks and vaccines. Noting that the proposed ordinance on our agenda targets one social congregation while ignoring others. And suggesting that if the council is truly concerned with passing an ordinance in order to reduce the impacts, that other sectors should be added to the restrictions. Another late communication that arrived here about 6:30 was from Pat Cryer. And Mr. Cryer essentially states that he believes we're on the downhill side of the spike, and that it was due to travelers coming in to the area. He states he lost a week of business due to a incident with a person that was ill with COVID, and that if you're going to try to do a city bar mandate, you might as well hit it citywide, not fair to single out one group, city functions, school, travel, airport, screening, etc. Does anybody else have any communications that they've received that should be noted? Okay, if not, moving on then to citizens' comments. At this time, we welcome those in the audience. If you'd like to address the council, to step to the podium, state your name for the record, and limit your comments, if at all possible, to 3 minutes. Are you laughing because you don't know your name, or you can't keep it to 3 minutes?
It's all the above, sir. Derek McClarty, I'd just like to speak to Ordinance 02110-01. I guess I'd like to start with some of the communications. They did paraphrase well. I've read some of those in their entirety, and I thought they were maybe a little more effective in their entirety. I'll keep it super short and simple because everybody after me will be better than this. So I think that as Mr. Cryer and Mr. Nofsker kind of highlighted, that a measure such as this is certainly within your means, but it is also aimed directly at one venue, one business style, and it's not necessarily the most susceptible to COVID spread by any logical rationale. So I think singling out just bars or just establishments that sell alcohol is a little bit ridiculous, and I would like to say that the difference between the bar and us sitting here right now is that they are at least drinking beer. Thank you.
I apologize for that outburst. Thank you, Mr. McClarty. Are there others?
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Reeder, and I too am here to speak on the ordinance that was just spoken on. I would just like you guys to consider and ask yourselves why the city manager wants to implement closures when we have 69% of the region vaccinated. What information is available to indicate the source of the spread? And how is it related to going to a bar? What is the motivation behind hand delivering emergency mandates by uniformed police officers to businesses? Why they're being posted on social media, like on the Nome Nugget Facebook page, but not on our own city Nome website. And why have they all been implemented between council meetings? October 4th, October 22nd, they seem to fall kind of conveniently between meetings so that they can't be stopped or changed or approved or not approved. What's going to happen when the private business closes? How are we going to ensure that they can actually come open again and don't close indefinitely? And their staff has to make an income. Or do we have any more COVID funds left available to cover any of the expenses that are being lost by the businesses or the people that work there? And I just want to share something that I found on Facebook that I thought was quite appropriate. If you have to be persuaded, reminded, pressured, lied to, incentivized, coerced, bullied, socially shamed, guilt-tripped, threatened, paid, punished, or criminalized, it's probably not in your best interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there others that would like to address the council?
Hello, my name's Darlene Trigg for the record. I just want to say thank you to the city manager for doing what he can, while he can, when he can, to make sure that our community is safe. I don't know that there are many opportunities where people feel actually comfortable to come to a meeting and space like this. In fact, frankly, I probably wouldn't be here tonight if my son wasn't being sworn into the student seat. But that said, it's a community effort. The city has responsibility. I'm grateful that the city is taking responsibility for making sure that our community is safe.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to address the council this evening? All right, seeing no indication, thank you for those comments. We will move on then to new business. And first item is ordinance 21-1001.
Bill 21-1001, an emergency ordinance prohibiting the sale of alcohol in Nome other than by authorized licensees holding a package store license until November 14, 2021, in order to reduce the impact and spread of COVID-19 throughout the city of Nome.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 21-1001? Or me?
Public hearing.
Okay. Public hearing, I guess, first. Council will stand in recess. The time is 7:21. Official time, not the one on the wall. To take public comments on ordinance 21-1001. Are there members in the audience this afternoon or this evening that would like to address this ordinance? Seeing no indication, call the council back into session, same time. Is there now a motion to adopt ordinance 21-10-1?
I'll move to adopt ordinance number 21-1001.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Councilmember Topcock, Councilmember Brown. Mr. Manager.
Okay. As I have said to you or emailed you, keep you abreast on the increases of COVID cases. We are now at 95 active COVID cases in the city of Nome. This is far higher than when you shut the city of Nome restaurants and bar community down in November and December of 2020. We know that COVID-19 is primarily circulating up here amongst the unvaccinated and in the younger population, especially in the 20 to 40 population, which from a demographic group is typically more the users of our bars. We have had a couple of people go in and see the bartender in a face mask, but everybody else in the bar not wearing a face mask because it's a social event. I think we all understand that. You can be in the bar for 2 or 3 or 4 hours. It's not like going into a food store where you may be in there for 30 minutes. It's not like going to a restaurant where you may be in there for 45 minutes. We've already seen the impacts of COVID shutting down a couple of the restaurants in town. And it seems, that this is where it is happening right now. I'd like to say that the reason why we had the police deliver the notice was because one of our employees had been abused, verbally abused previously by a bar owner, and we chose not to have any employee to go through that. Now, what the police did, which I was not aware of, is they went up to AC's, which had already been visited by me. So after the council raised those concerns the last time, we had a city employee go and deliver the notices, and fortunately, no one was abusive to that employee. I want everybody to understand, our city employees have taken a lot of abuse about trying to protect the community or trying to follow the guidance given by this council. It's been a thankless job for a number of the employees. We do have money left over in CARES because a lot of people did not apply for the CARES funding from Iditarod. So we have over $65,000 available to provide some type of aid to the businesses. Now, I instituted, because I had checked with our city attorneys, they said I had the authority to limit the capacity of bars to 65%. And just so, because we've had people complain that they have not seen the notice, we've been very aggressive in trying to send it out through social media, through the Chamber of Commerce, and posting on public sites around town. Also posted on the front door of City Hall, everyone that has changed. So because someone came in here and was complaining that the individual was complaining that their favorite spot notice said it had expired. Well, we explained how we sent this all out and how it was delivered. Because people are following it. So we do want to make sure people are not caught off guard. The reason why we did the Saturday night was because all of a sudden on Friday, we had 90 cases. So because some have raised concern, we've not given it to the bar owners or the business owners enough notice. We tried to wait 48 hours before we put anything into effect. All of this is being taken into consideration. We believe the count will be higher tomorrow based on what information was shared with me today. Now, and remember, this is not, people that had COVID 2 weeks ago. They're already off the list. This is 95 active cases in Nome. And 62% are young people. Or 62% are non-vaccinated. We're seeing this weird situation where the vaccinated folks could be giving it to, the non-vaccinated could be giving it to the vaccinated. Because some of those folks haven't gotten the booster shots, which we are also pushing. We are pushing for people to get the booster shots. We are pushing for the young people to consider getting tested or taking the vaccination. The city has some of its youngest employees who do not want to get vaccinated. And I'm not recommending mandating it for our city employees. But we are going to mandate that they get testing on a weekly basis. I guess, we can all discuss this. I can discuss this with everybody. There is no reason why 3 days, 4 days after you meet, all of a sudden I put in an order. That authority was given to me by you to take in this same situation. So I guess that's where we are. So if you have any questions, I'll feel free to answer them.
Councilmember Brown?
It sounds from the comments that you read and some of the other comments expressed that there's a desire within the community to expand the closure to businesses beyond just the bars. Unless that was maybe facetious.
I don't know that either party was
Serious?
suggesting that other than it was not it wasn't even keel by picking only the other.
I see. So the way I read this is it would hit the bars and the restaurants that serve alcohol, correct?
Correct.
Anything other than a package store.
Right.
So restaurants that would generate a large portion of their business off of alcohol sales would also be injured to some extent. I'm really torn on this one. We've only got 4 council members here, so I guess I've got the same power as Mr. Manchin in the Senate. But I mean, to some extent, I don't feel it's our responsibility to try to protect people that don't want to be protected. I mean, it has been said numerous times that it's currently a pandemic of the unvaccinated. I mean, there's mechanism out there to protect yourself. And I'm not so sure that we need to protect people from themselves when they don't want to be protected, I guess is what I'm saying. I mean, it's the same thought process that I went through back when they mandated helmet laws. And I didn't want to use a helmet on my motorcycle. And I couldn't understand why society, why the government would want to make me protect myself in an accident if I didn't care about it. But so I'm on the fence. So I guess convince me one way or the other.
Councilmember Topcock?
Well, Councilmember Brown. I guess my major concern is that a significant number of the COVID cases that are being contracted are breakthrough. As we saw in Glenn's report at the end, 30% of the COVID cases are breakthrough.
Higher than that now.
Higher than that now.
No.
So people who are vaccinated are suffering the consequences of other people's behavior. Which to me personally, I'm vaccinated when I get the booster. Please stick it in me. But I worry that I'm at a higher risk of getting COVID with the new variants and with the number of people who still aren't vaccinated, especially the fact that we have children going to school under the age of 12 who are not able to. I think to me it would be a different story if we did have a vaccine that was for children, so that everybody had the opportunity to choose one way or the other. But right now, a significant portion of our population has no say, and they don't get to go and vote either. So they're not putting us in office. So for me, I lean more in favor of passing this, just because the numbers seem a little out of control right now. It's risen pretty rapidly. I've been tracking it. I'm trying to do travel in the region for work, but it's a constant. I mean, every single day I'm having to sit down and look at these numbers and stress about it. And I was wondering for Glenn, do you have an estimate of how many are travel versus like community spread? Like, I guess my intent behind it is, should we be thinking about doing more at the airport?
It appears to be more community spread at this point. And I think the other issue which has confounded me, which surprised me when I heard it the other day, a number of our communities around us are not even at 70%. Some of them are in the low 40s that are vaccinated at this point. But the number of cases, there were 140 reported cases in the Nome Census District. 95 of them were in Nome today. We also believe, after talking with Dr. Peterson this afternoon, that the children's vaccination should be available hopefully within 2 weeks or a little over 2 weeks. That's what they're hoping, that they'll be able to start administering the child the 5 to 11 bracket. Fortunately, the children are the way it's been happening right now is they recover the easiest, not that every child does. And we still only have one death in the community. We may have a second death. Apparently situations are not good for one patient in Anchorage. But most of our cases, have not been as severe as we have seen with our neighbors down in Anchorage or Fairfax.
Thank you.
Thank you. On the line there, Councilmember Johnson, Mark Johnson.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions for City Manager Steckman. One was, have we got received further data from the hospital regarding these cases coming out of the bars? Or are we just kind of surmising that they might be?
What we're hearing is, and the hospital is as much as I am trying to figure this out. We are hearing that there has been transmissions in the bars, that people have come into the bars who are COVID positive. And because they have such a mild case, this is all anecdotal. We've heard, we've gone in and done some spot checks where the bartenders are wearing face masks, as I said earlier, but the bar patrons are not. So can I draw a direct line, Mark? No. But this is we do know that what's happening is happening in congregate settings. A bar is a congregate setting. So that's exactly, just so everybody knows, that's, we looked at it, I looked at it, I discussed it with people, and this is where we felt was the best interest to go. Now, you also have, if you elect not to go forward with this, if that's the intention of the council, you do have the emergency order, which you also still have to consider tonight, which did set occupancy limitations to 25%, with it expiring by November 14th. We know the numbers are not going to drop dramatically in the next week.
So next question is regarding that 25% order. Today's only Monday, and that just went in effect on Saturday, but regarding this ordinance we're talking about and the 25% order, have you heard or reached out to, I think there's like two active clubs in town that serve alcohol and 4 or 5 bars. We did hear from one of the bar owners tonight, I guess, with his comments that John read. Have we heard from any other bar owners or club owners of what they think as far as the effect on them, or if they have any comments on it?
We have not heard from anybody else.
Okay, and then the next question I had was, I saw in that emergency order for the 25% capacity, and I think in a previous order that we are somehow exempting the school, and I know the school has their own protocol and things like that, but even when it came to masking in public places, there was a provision in there to exempt the school. And I have heard, and I've been getting a number of texts throughout the day. And one of the concerns is also is mostly for the kids because they're not vaccinated, and also it seems like a number of cases have started at the school or are basically detected at the school, and then they've gone home and their family members have gotten COVID as well. And I guess my question is legally, or why are we doing that? Why are we exempting the school?
That's what the city attorney recommended.
Okay. And it's because they already have a protocol in place. I mean,
well, they already have they do have a protocol in place, but this, because of the uniqueness of the school system, the city solicitor, and it was Charles
Cassiola.
Cassiola recommended that we not include the school since they already had their own process in place.
I see. Yeah, like Gerald, I'm kind of on the fence of government, being involved with it, you know. And, hear from people also that are concerned about, transmission through people who are, doing a certain social activity where they may lose some of their inhibitions. Maybe not be masking as much. But I'm also, we're supposed to represent the community and get feedback from the community, and the majority of the feedback that I've gotten today, as well as what we've heard tonight, has been more leaning towards not doing the emergency order. And so, like Gerald, I'm also kind of on the fence with this one.
You know, it seems to me we have community spread, but we don't know that that's not travel related. We're not testing anybody. We aren't looking before it's here. So to me, that's one issue. Second issue is probably everybody who wants to be vaccinated has probably been vaccinated. And when we talk about kids, I would assume parents who don't want to be vaccinated are probably not going to vaccinate their children. That being said, you can protect them from themselves only so far. And I think we're at the point where masks are wise. There's maybe, in my opinion, some chance that you did something like a 50% bar might help. I can't imagine it probably would. I have received 0 comments from anyone who said this has been a good idea. That being said, I haven't talked to any medical people. I'm on the fence, but I am leaning heavily against it.
Councilmember Brown?
Okay, I had a couple of comments. So if we do this, you said there was about $65,000 left in the fund that had previously been allocated for the corona virus stuff. Was there additional monies as well?
Well, you also have additional monies in the ARPA funds that none of that has been committed yet. So that could be used for this, because.
How long do we have?
We've got
Long time?
a long time on the
Okay,
ARPA
that's good
funds.
And that's, okay, so, because I'm thinking if we tell a sector of the community that they have to lose business and income, we need to compensate them. I'm more worried about the bartenders and servers than I am the owners, but the owners definitely, without them, the bartenders aren't going to have something to go back to. So are you contemplating a program similar to last year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I do recall some statistics from last year that ranked different types of interactions as to the severity of or the potential for COVID transmission. And bars were like the hottest spot pretty much out of all of the ones listed. So I don't really have a problem with if we're going to target something, the bars are the logical place to target. I think churches are politically a hot potato that we don't want to touch. So the bars could actually do some benefit. I still it grinds me a little bit that we even have to talk about it, that there's this segment of the population that for political reasons is injuring themselves, basically. But yeah, if we've got a plan in place, or if we'll have a plan in place to compensate for the losses, the financial losses that are suffered, including tips, I guess I'm a little more inclined to support the ordinance.
Is there a way, I didn't think about this when we were doing this before, but to tailor it at individuals who work in those sectors, like the employees? I guess I would trust that the bar owners and the restaurant owners would be, ensuring that their employees are taken care of when business.
I wouldn't assume that.
Okay. That being said, can we tailor it to make sure that it gets to the employees?
Well, last time you allocated $300 a week for every documented employee submitted by the bar owner that those folks were unemployed. And we did ask for them to say that these were their people, because anybody could have, put it in. And I believe, and I forget how much money you also made up to the bar owners. Typically we look at their sales tax last year, as the base. Now obviously, as I said, this is 3 weeks versus 6+ weeks the last time. I'm hoping this is going to drive the numbers down. That's all we're looking at. And I want to remind everybody, this council asked us to stop do testing at the airport. And getting testing at the airport is a major, major push-up. Because we've got to get Alaska Airlines to agree to send their customers out through this one door so that we can manage those folks to go through. And I can also say, towards the end of that period of time, we had city employees shoved out of the way, screened at for almost no reason, because they were trying to encourage people. They had to show their COVID card or to get tested. And, I really don't ever want to ask any city employee to have to go through that again based on the abuse that the city employees took the last month of that. And I think sometimes, I didn't think we would be here like this a year ago from last year. No one thought that. We found out today, for instance, the Christmas bazaar for the firemen is canceled because they're concerned that much about holding an activity like that during the early part of December with numbers still moving up. The churches, they are following the face mask mandates. I've checked with a couple of the pastors. Some of their parishioners are not happy, but they are following it. I think the big difference that we all need to understand is everyone around here is with a face mask tonight. We're not having our face mask down, talking and spreading aerosol from our own mouths in the air. And, we look at this happening in bars and to restaurants more to a limited degree. You go to the church, the minister is wearing a mask, and the congregants are wearing a mask. Just like everybody here tonight wore a mask, even when they were speaking. That's all that we're just trying to do. So,
And not to repeat myself, but if it wasn't for the fact that there was a lot of breakthrough cases, I would be less concerned. You know, if people want to choose to put themselves at risk, that's one thing, but when people are putting me at risk as somebody who's fully vaccinated, who's putting my husband at risk, who's a high school social studies teacher who doesn't have a choice, he has to go to school, he has to interact with people. They've got 20-some students in quarantine right now. There's teachers who have gotten COVID, even though they're vaccinated. I just worry that even though I contain myself as much as I can, that the consequences of other people's poor choices are going to ultimately impact me, even though I do everything I can. And so the little bit that we can do on the city side, I feel is very important. So that's my 2 cents there.
I guess between the time the city manager wrote his notes that are in our packet on Friday and today, it's jumped by 10% in town. It was 87 on Friday, it's 95 today. I guess, I also struggle with the, putting limitations. I believe that people ought to be responsible for themselves and ought to care about their neighbors. There certainly are those in the community that are doing that, and that's greatly appreciated. Let's see, it would have been Saturday at a local grocery store. I counted 39 people in there, or 40 people in there. 39 had masks, and one walked around there, like this. And, I didn't go down the same aisle that she went down. But there are those that simply don't give a damn about the rest of us. And that's my feeling on it. I guess I'm hoping that the school is, I know there's a big desire to have education in the classroom as opposed to have it long distance delivery. And I know that they have the red, yellow, green system out there. And I don't know if we're in yellow right now, or, we're definitely not in red, or there wouldn't be school. Mr. Hebel.
I just wanted to speak on the school portion of it, but the school is currently in green, and I've seen it in sports, and some of my peers have commented about it, and I've heard them talk about how the school seems pretty hesitant to enforce the rules, especially around sports, like sports activities, like requiring masks at practices or reducing traveling or anything. They seem very hesitant to enforce the rules, but I haven't talked to the whole of the student body or any higher ups about it, but that's just a few comments that I've heard through school.
Thank you. I know over the weekend there was a sports activity going on Saturday there, and with visitors from out of town, and it seemed like the majority of the folks were adhering to a mask request at those activities, and those that walked by that didn't have one, I had a package of them. I said, "Hey, would you like one?" And they all graciously took them and put them on, and I was pleased to see that. But I think that there may be reason to exempt, as Brooks did here, say not to include the school in it, but I know Glenn works with Jamie pretty closely on these things, and I know she's likely listening into what we're talking about now, and we encourage the schools to be vigilant in these activities. Obviously, the message will make it back another route. Thank you, Ms. Drake. And, I like I say, I mean, there are folks that just aren't doing it. And if folks were a little more cooperative, I guess I'm going to say, at this point in time, it certainly, we wouldn't be at this point. But I know there's a lot of, there's 95 of these cases presently in Nome. I was had N95 masking on the thing, but I had to help somebody that had was a known COVID person over the weekend, and some folks simply it was a chore for 15 minutes to ensure that that person kept their mask on. They constantly wanted to take it off. Seems to me that, we've identified where, the potential largest spread area is. I'm not sure, Glenn, that I agree that you can get served in 30 or 45 minutes necessarily at a restaurant. And it seems like they're pretty darn packed, some of these evenings as well. And, I guess I don't see necessarily singling out just the bars in this. I think that, other places where, people tend to pack into that, a 6 foot separation thing just doesn't seem to be happening from my observation. And I think that we ought to consider a reduction at restaurants as well. Anybody else have any comments? Further comment? Councilmember Brown?
Yeah, I guess, the more I think about it, the level of interaction that occurs in a bar versus at a restaurant or even church, it's a lot more intensive, a lot closer quarters. Like you said, nobody's wearing masks, or very few. So if we are gonna select one area, and I do believe that closing the bars would have an effect on the rates of transmission. I firmly believe that. The thing that was leading me the other direction was just kind of a, why bother kind of thing. They've had this tool for 9 months or more that people can use so they don't get seriously ill. And for whatever reasons, they refuse to avail themselves of that. I'm just glad that didn't happen back with the polio vaccines and the other major vaccines that have saved millions of lives in the interim. So I guess I'm coming off the fence, and I'm in favor of this ordinance as long as we make sure that we are compensating the employees, the bartenders, servers, etc., even the janitors and whatnot that work for the bars, in an amount that truly reflects their lost earnings. I don't think $300 cuts it, personally, but,
You can make that on tips in one night.
yeah, exactly. So I think we need to have a further conversation about what that looks like. And we've got 3 weeks to come up with that, but, and then compensation for the bar owner as well. I hate to do it, but I think that it does make sense.
I guess I'd just say that if we're tying this into a compensation deal as well, we probably shouldn't wait 3 weeks because somebody's going to lose their job tomorrow on the deal.
Well, it's going to take time to put that in place, though, isn't it?
Well, I know, but I think we need to try to get it going a little sooner than that because, I think that a lot of folks in that industry are either paid every 2 weeks or even some that are paid on a weekly basis.
They get most of their money nightly from the tip.
Okay. Okay.
So
That's
it
what
would
you're
have an
doing in
immediate,
moonlighting, huh?
we'd have an immediate impact.
Right. Yeah, we can't wait 3 weeks, I'd say.
Right.
I mean, sorry.
Go ahead.
I assume Glenn, based on what we've done in the past, could put something together, and if needed, we can have a special meeting. to
Well-
approve, or-
Last time, even though we were actually closed longer than 6 weeks, you had set limitations at 6 weeks. And I understand that not everybody, we were getting various stories whether $300 was enough. And I don't know what an average bartender makes. We're going to have some type of proof of information. Now, not knowing how the accounting works for employees up here, I don't know whether, because typically an employee is paid X dollar amount and really makes all their money on tips. Does the establishment keep track of those tips, or does the individual keep track of those tips? So we're going to have something to verify that individual made this amount of money. And, I would first reach out to couple of the bar owners and just say, how are you guys doing this? And then, we'll come up with something. What I'm hearing is very clearly, you want to make sure the bar staff is, kept paid, and auxiliary staff, the bus boys or whatever. Let us try to come up, we do try to figure out what is fair. I didn't propose this without a thought of some type of compensation. Because I know it's impacting people, and I know it's impacting the business owners. And we do that's why this money is here, to assist in that.
I guess the other thing, where this limitation has varying impacts is that, you have some facilities that have many square feet and others that are much smaller in the thing. So, putting a 25% or, some kind of a limitation on it can make a significant difference, from one facility to the next. And, I just don't think that a limitation you're still going to have, whether it's a function of time or not, but that people tend to gravitate, my observation when I used to go there is the later it got, the closer you got. And, it just, I don't think that we really solve anything by just putting a limitation. I mean, either we take the limitation off and just let it be, or, it's 100%. I don't think I understand what the rationale behind the limitation, and, not wanting to totally impact folks, trying to come up with something that made a little bit of sense, and kept some amount of income moving. But, it seems to me it's either 0 or 100. And it's 0 if we really want to have an impact or think this has an impact on the,
Mr. Mayor?
community. Sorry? Oh, Mark, Councilmember Johnson, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I mentioned to Glenn the other day, I thought that the limitation thing at least puts kind of notice out there, or it's something that people recognize and gets people attention that there is an issue, and that maybe it, like you said, maybe it doesn't make sense. I don't know. I think spreading people out inside of a restaurant, having every other table helps. And if there's a way to do that in our bars, that would make more sense. I mean, ideally, we kind of nipped it at the butt because everybody stayed home last year. The school was closed. And I'm supportive of the school, and I agree, and I also agree that the distance learning and home learning isn't the best situation for majority of our students. So I kind of applaud the idea that we're doing measures in order to try to keep the schools open. So in asking the question about the emergency order, that's not putting down the schools or what they're doing. It's just that it's reality that that's one of the places that the kids people are getting COVID, from what I understand as well. Where that's coming from before it gets to school is another measure, but anyway, as I mentioned to Glenn, I think that just the fact that we're talking about it and making people think about it and acknowledging it is helpful as well, regardless of whether I hate to put limitations again on one industry or on the bar owner. A lot of stuff doesn't go well after midnight. I know we've looked at different timing on things before as well. But again, to me, it's kind of a tough one because there's so many different measures one could take, and we're choosing one particular measure, just strictly with the bars and not looking at other avenues, I guess.
I guess another comment on the thing is this, and I think there was some mention of it, that, the limitation has only been in effect for a couple of days, so we really don't know, how or if all, what impact that had at all on anything. And along your comment there, council member, on, it kind of, gave folks something to think about, perhaps, when faced with the potential of simply, it being 0 or 25% or whatever percentage it is, that that maybe the establishment owners, would take some other measures on their own accord if they, want to stay open. Should we give this limitation a little bit more time before we go to this step, or are we at a point to simply move forward? Councilmember Brown?
Yeah, so I'm not in favor of the 25%. And again, it's from the standpoint of the employees and the establishment owners, actually. I mean, theoretically, 25% doesn't mean they're only going to make 25% of their business. Like you said, someplace with a large establishment that maybe fire marshal says you can have 300 people in there, and you regularly only have 100 anyway, you're going to cut it down to 75. So you don't lose a whole lot of business. But the businesses along Front Street that are just packed in like sardines, you are going to lose, 50 to 75% of the business. And what that means to the bar owner is you're losing revenue, but you still got all your cost. Maybe you don't have, maybe you cut one bartender and a couple of servers or something. So you cut your cost a little bit, but you still got your electricity and all your other costs. And nobody's reimbursing you for those. The servers that can't go to work, or the bartender that can't go to work because the bar owner doesn't see a need for them because you're only serving 50 to 25% of your customers, they get nothing except theoretically they can apply for unemployment. I don't know if they have, waiting weeks and all that kind of stuff for that kind of unemployment, but that's a small fraction of what they normally would make. So strictly from a standpoint of looking out for the workers, I would lean very heavily towards, just shutting it down as opposed to mandating a percentage of occupancy. That's just the way I look at it. I mean, as far as, is it going to reduce the transmission of COVID if you're at 25% as opposed to 100? Sure, it's got to. I mean, you get, you've only got, maybe 50% of your regular clientele there, or 25% of your regular clientele. So, maybe the COVID positive people that would have been there stayed home because they couldn't get in. So they're not spreading it. You're spread a little farther apart. So that's there. So anyway, to summarize, I wouldn't go with a percentage reduction. I would just either fully open or shut it down.
I guess maybe another solution would be closing early. As the night gets longer, the crowd gets closer. Maybe you shut down at midnight or 11 o'clock. Still need to compensate to some degree, but again, I'm not in favor of protecting those who will not protect themselves. So they still want to go out. It's their business. I guess we want to go out, it's our business. We proved that COVID is dangerous, but it's not what we thought it was or what we thought it might be 14, 16 months ago. And there's defense against it. Stay away, get the vaccine, stay away.
Okay, so we're kind of, I guess this thing on the limitation has come up in this discussion. So, we do have later with the city manager under his report presenting the current emergency ordinance for if we choose to cancel or ratify that. That I don't know if that makes it sounds like that could make a difference in this particular issue being considered. And not committing you to a vote a little later in the meeting for another item, but I guess the sense that I'm gathering is the limitation has less support than a downright closure. Am I stating that correctly? No comment?
That's how I feel.
Go ahead, Councilmember Mark.
So I guess, I did find one advantage. I like being in person and being at a meeting, personally. But I did find one advantage of, this being out of town and calling in that I was able to phone a friend. And I took that, so I took option number 2 and phoned a friend who happens to be one of the bar owners, and kind of got an opinion on that as well. And that opinion is that doesn't really work. That opinion was, if we're going to do it at all, his opinion was to close it down for a period of time till we determine that that it makes an effect one way or the other, and I guess we're proposing 3 weeks. I don't know if 3 weeks is a good number or not, but the thing was to try it out and not serve alcohol for a period of time, and that was from one of the bar owners. I know there are several of them, but the limitation thing was suggested as well from one of the bar owners is not necessarily meeting the needs that we're trying to get at.
Okay, thank you. Yes, a potential amendment to this was voiced by Councilmember Doug Johnson relative to a change in hours. Is there any discussion on that particular?
I think there'd have to be an amendment on the table before we discuss the amendment, but, I mean, you can discuss the concept, I
The
guess.
concept is,
I mean, I guess I would object to that for the same reasons that I would for the percentage reduction. Because it would be very difficult to figure out what kind of compensation you might come up with, and you would have employees. Some employees wouldn't be affected. I mean, the guy that cleans up afterwards, obviously, he's got to clean up whether you close at midnight or 2. But if people are getting closer after midnight and probably consuming more after midnight, they're probably, freer with their tips because the inhibitions are gone, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I just think that'd be a really difficult one to try and do. And in my mind earlier, I was comparing it to like a taking in mining or other activities where the government steps in and takes something that doesn't belong to them. And the I don't know if you call it a doctrine of taking. Anyway, the law basically says that that the government then needs to fairly compensate the party that was injured, and that's That's what I think we need to do, is whatever limitations we put in place, we need to make sure that, since it's the community at large that we're trying to protect, even though some of them don't want to be, at the expense of the individuals that work in the industry. Those individuals need to be compensated. And I think we all agree with that.
Okay, well, we've gone around the table on this one, I think, long enough. We're not gonna do more than restate prior positions. Are there any proposed amendments to the ordinance in front of us?
Is it too late for a community comment? Are we past that? And I just,
Yeah. If you want to write a note, you can.
okay, I'll write a note. Thank you.
Okay, no amendments to be proposed. Are we ready for the question? Roll call, please, on ordinance 29-10-1. And both as a regular ordinance and as an emergency ordinance, we would have to have all 4 votes in order for this to take effect.
Councilmember Mark Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Topgolf. Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Doug Johnson.
No.
Motion fails.
Thank you. Moving on then to the next item, Resolution 21-10-03. Mr. Clerk, for title, please.
R 21-10-03, a resolution authorizing application, approval, and acceptance of a loan from the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation, Alaska Clean Water Fund, to provide loan financing for improvements to the community wastewater system infrastructure.
Thank you. Go ahead. If you'd like to make a comment to the presentation?
If you feel any questions, but I can go through it pretty quickly.
Okay, point of order, can we get a motion in a second before we begin discussion?
This is management. Presentation, does that happen?
After.
Oh, okay, all right. All right. The, is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Topgolf, Councilmember Brown. Now,
Hello, Ken Morton on behalf of NJU. So the Bering Street project that recently wrapped up, we had water and sewer work, as you're certainly aware. We have funds left over from that which was initially authorized, both because we had better prices than we initially estimated, and we reduced the scope. With the pending Sepola project, which is a near image, except it's east-west instead of north-south, I suppose. We, with the board's recommendation, made a request to ADEC that they allow us to modify the 2 loans that we have, add a little bit of coin to the water side, and just a scope change to the sewer side. And that's the 2 resolutions that you have in front of you, essentially.
great, thank you. If there are any further questions, roll call please on the adoption.
Councilmember Topgolf. Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Doug Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Mark Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution 21-10-04 by title, please.
R 21-10-04, a resolution authorizing application, approval, and acceptance of a loan from the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation, Alaska Drinking Water Fund, to provide loan financing for improvements to community water system infrastructure.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 21-10-04?
Motion to adopt resolution.
Thank Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Doug Johnson and Councilmember Brown. We don't need any further discussion. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Topcott. Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Doug Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Mark Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on then to utility report, Mr. Morton.
Hello, Ken Morton, on behalf of Hoosier Utility System. It's been pretty quiet since we last met here a few weeks ago. We have a spill drill planned this Wednesday in coordination with Bonanza. Since COVID's all the rage, we're gonna do it around a conference table instead of out in the field. But we'll be wearing masks. We have our proposals in for our source testing. It should happen in January. We issued a purchase order to Montrose Air Quality Services in the amount of about $38,000 today. More than that, we're just prepping for winter and cleaning up. Any questions on this or anything that's related to MJU? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
I have to open up with something. I think there's maybe some people assuming I'm a teetotaler in this community, which is as far wrong as you can expect. I too was young, but I will tell you there's something that you probably all don't know about me. When I was in college, and I helped open a bar, so I've always enjoyed a nice drink. So any controls or limitations on the bars are not from that, but I'm also kind of gotten up there now in years where I don't go to bars anymore either. So, Joe Horton has submitted his resignation. I want to use this as an opportunity to reorganize the department, to put back span of control in there, which is going to be creating a couple foreman's position and clearly specifying that the supervisor is over both portions, or actually there are 4 aspects of the department, so that we would have at least 2 foremen to help better manage and get things done. The staff has been real hard at work this week and finally getting our touchless faucets in and getting new paper towel devices put in so that they're also quieter, which is good for the ears. Also, the mayor and I will be traveling down to Anchorage this week to attend the presentation that Joy and her crew are putting on for the port and helping to get that developed. Also, I want to make sure that everybody knows no city employee can travel for city type of business without being vaccinated. So we are putting that incentive to the employees that if you want to go around, whether it's in the rest of Alaska or down in the lower 48, you have to be vaccinated. Where I mentioned Arctic Access, I meant to mention, it should have been Arctic Eagle. I was just thinking of something Arctic Access, which is a training program up here. I think that's going to be very good for the organization. I meant to bring down from upstairs, the boiler has been disassembled from the rec center. We've got pictures, so I'll probably just send them out to you tomorrow. The door has been cut open for the boiler to be installed, so it should be in no later than where John Blees went, no later than November the 15th. So, other than that, sir, there's not a lot of things going on. Also, we do have a snow ad going out. There will be we will ask all customers that we serve in the city to respond to one telephone number and not call who you know. That way we can better coordinate the removal of snow. And then there will be an email address, which is very simple, snowremoval@nomealaska.org. So that hopefully we can, work a little bit better. We are having shortages of staff, just like everybody else is. And I don't expect a mild winter, unfortunately. So, but I just wanted to let you know that'll be in the paper this week. Also, you have, as part of your packet, the emergency order. When I was talking with the attorney said, well, you can have the bars open, but you could say no one could, zero attendance. And I wasn't going to play that game. That's not the way to do things. But I really would encourage you still to have limitations, whether it's 25% or 50%. I don't know how it's getting into the children. I don't know whether it's brought by their older siblings down, whether it's coming through people that are potentially teaching, who are bartenders, who make extra money bartending. It's hard to, trace how this is going. But I do believe you should let this order stand or modify it to no more than 50%.
Has Dr. Peterson had any comments
Yes.
on this?
Everything is sent to Dr. Peterson. Dr. Peterson said this was a very good step. Now, he understood the bars, but he felt this was a very good step to help control, and he commented on that on Friday. And we still can do what I think everybody is concerned about. What's the impact on the bars going to be?
Just a little harder to substantiate with the reduction like that.
Well, we'll be able to look at sales tax.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, does the council wish to take action on the emergency order?
Well, we have to, right?
No, we don't.
No,
No,
don't
we
have to, but, I mean, you can, either,
I mean, if we don't take action, then
It stays.
it's okay.
So how are we going to enforce the 25%?
Well, just like we have taken a very soft approach. We're not sending in police to enforce this. We are looking at the bar owners to enforce themselves. It's the same thing we've done with the owners of the food stores. I mean, I'll be very frank, we have told them not to get themselves in a confrontational issue with a customer. But just try to put the signage up, which is what they've done. And that has seemingly, discouraged it. I mean, I haven't seen someone walking around without a face mask, so I was surprised when the mayor said that, because I've been really seeing pretty good 100% compliance.
See strays all over the place without them. So would you envision something like you'd have a thing on the door that says occupancy 100 people, no more than 25 this week?
We can do that. I'll ask Cliff McHenry to go back and see what the occupancy. Usually there should be a sign in a bar or any establishment acknowledging.
Right, but if we're trying to do soft enforcement, we're trying to get people to deal with it themselves, and that needs to be front and center. It can't be something that I've looked at that 3,000 times, and they've been in the bar 3,000 times.
We'll work with the bar owners.
So if we base compensation on last year's numbers, I don't think that's accurate. Because the few times I was out last year were nothing like the previous year. And I've been out a few times this year where the numbers are beginning to look almost normal. I know that's a pain in the butt. However, we're costing people money. Not just the workers, but somebody has to pay the bill to keep the lights on and heat the place and all that other stuff. So the owners are probably just as important, or nearly so, as those who are going paycheck to paycheck.
We could use October numbers for 2021 against November numbers for 2021. So we would use, last year we did not close the restaurants down until I believe it was just about a week or just at Thanksgiving week. But, I also know the number of people coming through bars. I've heard some people say their attendance has been down, period, since COVID started.
I no doubt about that.
But we could use the October numbers of this year as a guide for, what they report in 3 weeks to us.
I think that would be more fair.
I don't disagree. Because just remember, we don't get our sales tax in completed till November 20th. That's why we'll start getting a snapshot where the bars were in that 6 months, and then we'll try to work with them to file as early, or, I think there's any way to address the concerns that are being made here. There's always a way. Whether we take their October numbers and then turn around and say, okay, whatever it is, it's, 25, whatever it's 75% of that is going to be impacted by the closure.
So today happens to be the 25th, so we should have September numbers were filed as of today. I mean, can't we just use September numbers?
You can use September.
I'm open. It seems like it would be current. Whatever you think, but it just, if we're waiting to use October numbers, we won't have those till November, I guess was my thought.
I would advocate September numbers.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Hey, Glenn, could you, when the city's reaching out to the bar owners to talk to them about this compliance and working together on this, can you encourage them to keep their employees on staff and tell them that the city will have a program, or you're working on a program to try to compensate the bar owners for their lost revenue for the city imposition of lowering capacity, and encourage them to keep their staff on?
I will ask them. I will try to schedule a meeting by Friday. The only reason why is I'll be out of the office all day on Thursday. So we'll start the outreach, Councilmember Johnson.
Okay, thank you. And I guess so people understand that most small businesses in Nome are struggling basically paycheck to paycheck, and it's a highly volatile industry, especially with the bars. It's very costly to operate. They do have a difficult time with getting a certain number of employees, and so any effect that we have as a government on them, it seems like, since we do have additional funds, that we should try to help compensate those and encourage them to keep their staff on, because those staff are also living paycheck to paycheck. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, just to tack on, in addition to what Mark said, like I said before, I'm more concerned about the employees than I am the the bar owners, I mean, I'm concerned about them also, but to keep an employee on that you're paying $265 an hour because they're getting tips, that's not really helping the employee. So I think we still need to make sure that we have a program that helps the employees.
And that'll be part of the conversation with the bar owners. That'll be the conversation with the bar owners.
Okay, so no action on the emergency ordinance?
Mr. Mayor, I got a couple other things.
Please go ahead.
You have some of the staff report. Finance will be giving you their quarterly report because they are right now not knee deep, but neck deep in the audit. So that they'll be able to give you a good understanding what's going on. We will be, looks like, be able to get the mayor's new vehicle here. You didn't hear that.
Oh. That I'm handing down to you?
We've been told we might be able to get this vehicle shipped up here. Apparently there are some vehicles that have come available. Unfortunately, the ones that we would like are new police vehicles and they're still not in stock. One of the things the chief filled me in today is while it's still 46 too many, we are only at 46 sexual assaults this year, which is a positive. In light of what our numbers look like previously, our calls are down significantly. And once again, I think some of it is due to what's happened across the street. So I also extend to Paris an opportunity, which last time Council Member Topcock did not take advantage of, is a tour of the city and its the facilities. You get a chance to see behind the curtain, as they say. And we'll arrange that with you, and we'll have a lunch here and give you a good understanding what it takes to operate the city. And you're always welcome to give me the call as the city manager to answer any questions that you may have. And to Councilmember Topcock, I owe you an apology. I did not attend your meeting last week. I got sidetracked. So I still have to get that addressed on the tourism issue. So I have not forgotten.
Okay, thank you. We'll pick up anything else under council member comments. Moving then on to citizens' comments. Are there those that would like to address the council again this evening?
Oh, I feel like it's a little bit.
Please come to the podium if you need to speak and state your name for the record.
I'm Andrew James. This may be backtracking a little bit, and I have to admit I took a bathroom break, and I'm a little confused about how this ended, whether it be at like a 25% capacity limit, and was that an amendment from?
No.
No, that was the original ordinance. Okay, I was just trying to catch up, sorry. Just a couple things as you guys were talking about it that came to mind. One is, as a business owner, my family's in a business here a long time right across the street, that I empathize with the idea that there's going to be lost revenue if any action is taken, whether it be a bar owner or another small business. I know that that's, for those who run small businesses, it means everything to them. So I think it's important to recognize that. And it's not an easy thing to have a venture like that. So and one thing I thought in my mind was maybe this is a little unorthodox, but like as a business owner, like maybe we could have a special contribution or a fundraiser or something for those businesses that don't have to close, such as ours, where we can make contributions and maybe towards businesses that are to sort of share the burden of making a decision in the public's health interest. Because it's just by coincidence that I'm not a bar owner and I'm a business owner that doesn't require drinking and eating and masks, because that's, let's be honest, like what happens when you eat and drink. But the other thing that I just came up, and I always try to remind myself when talking about COVID is like, it's not just unvaccinated people. It's like, well, you could get your vaccine, and if you choose not to, you're not at risk, and you're the only one. People who are immunocompromised, the efficacy of the vaccine is not there for them. Those are people who are fundamentally, because of health conditions and comorbidities, they're at risk. The vaccine does not help them. And those are the least among us, and they need to be, I wanted to voice that it's not that black and white. The other group that, especially even who are vaccinated, and I've read a lot of medical research around this, although I didn't come prepared with quotes, is that people who are vaccinated, the group of people that are more likely to have severe COVID, even if vaccinated, are the elderly. And that is a credible, from what I know, credible medical information that we're gathering in the middle of this novel virus. I'm trying to understand it. Oh, and the other thing that didn't come up, and I think we all know this, but I wanted to say it, is like hospitals in Alaska are overwhelmed. I feel like it's important to voice that, like the medical staff in those hospitals who are enduring what they are to try to do this. I mean, we are literally bringing in people from out of state because our hospitals are overwhelmed and people are dying and people are sick, and we don't have the capacity. And I think that's important to recognize when trying to make, a sound decision for the community, and one that is ethical and has the foundation of some like a compass around what it means to in that realm. And the other thing is, and I think some people talked about this a little bit, but I mean, if the numbers of COVID go up, I think at some point we would risk closing schools again, right? I mean, that could happen. Seems like, when weighing these things that none of us want to weigh, if it means a business has limitations, and if that would, if the contribution that makes is that, it reduces the likelihood that our schools and our children and their education are not compromised and they get to keep going to school, that's important. It's really important that they're in school. So these sacrifices suck. I think we should do everything we can to support any business owners who are bearing the brunt of it. But I also want to commend the council for trying to have like a discussion that's rooted in reason and that you mentioned the doctor that you guys went to. It's good to have those are expert voices. And anyway, I just thought those were some of the things that I thought of when you guys were discussing it. So, and thanks for one other thing I'll add is it really helped, like us as a small business. And when I walked into Hanson's and AC and people were in masks, I thought to myself, I bet you there was some coordination with them ahead of time, especially the grocery stores, which was smart because like that really helped. And when customers come into Mariskaya's, having the support of the municipality, it makes you feel like you're not trying to just enforce. You're just on your own battling this thing to try to do the right thing. With a business, it made a huge difference. So thank you for what you guys are doing. I know it's not easy. I know not everyone agrees with it, but thank you.
Thank you. And I guess you're not to have an open dialogue with you, but you're thinking about the old people getting it worse. I guess I thought growing old would take longer. I put on this week. I think I'm out there in the older group that is more likely to be impacted by it. So pardon me for taking my own health into consideration. All right. Are there others that would like to address?
Yes, I would. Please and thank you. Derek McClarty, one more time. First of all, I'd like to say thank you, Doug, for listening to the public at large, because I think that I've read a lot of questionnaires lately as I tried to find myself at one of these seats and one of the main questions that I see on there over and over again is, why do you think that public participation in local politics is so measly? And how do you propose to make that change? Basically, what I heard tonight was a word conclusive a lot, but I didn't hear a lot of conclusive. I heard a lot of speculation. I heard a finite group, at least 20 to 40, but to say it's from the bars or to say that they're parents and have kids that are at school, or who knows? I mean, 20 to 40 could mean almost anything. So I guess what I really want to just say is when I hear that the only real conclusive piece of data was that you didn't really have anybody supporting you or sending you emails or telling you that this was a good idea. You didn't necessarily hear a whole bunch of people that were in line with this. Mr. Mark Johnson as well, maybe had a bar owner that didn't have opposition, but he didn't have a lot of people that were pushing for this. And then to see a vote that was 75% in favor of this when public opinion clearly stated otherwise might be a reason why there's not so much public participation and there's only a few people back here on such a pretty major subject. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there others who would like to address the council? If not, moving on then to council member comments. Mr. Clerk?
Councilmember Brown.
Yeah. And I appreciate the comments from this evening. I am reminded that as elected officials, we're elected to serve the entire community and not just those that are vocal. There were some news stories about a mask ordinance in Anchorage and the vehement opposition to that ordinance. That was demonstrated by some numerous meetings at the assembly level. But one thing that was mentioned, not highlighted, but mentioned in several of the reports was that they also accepted written testimony, and that the written testimony was overwhelmingly in favor of the ordinance, even though the spoken testimony was overwhelmingly opposed to it. And the volume of written comments vastly overwhelmed the spoken ones. So what that tells me is that a lot of people don't feel comfortable coming to the meeting for whatever reason. And maybe they don't feel that their voice will be heard or taken into consideration, et cetera. But we do have an obligation to serve those people as well. And so when I make a decision here at this table, I'm thinking about the large numbers of people that don't go to the meetings. And we usually have comments from people that represent large groups of people, representatives of Quirk or other Native entities or the hospital or whatever. I would consider more expert testimony as opposed to some of the comments that we get in person. So I think we do try and represent the entire community. And again, I'm not terribly upset that this ordinance didn't pass. I mean, if people want to protect themselves, it's real easy. All they have to do is not go to the bar, not put themselves in situations that are high risk. And I realize it's not that simple, because you can have a parent that, for whatever reason, doesn't feel that it's as important as someone else might. They go to the bar, they catch COVID, take it home, give it to their kids. Before they get symptoms, the kids go to school. Maybe they're one of the kids that are notorious at school for flaunting the mask rules. They spread it to a teacher, some other kids, and you get somebody down the line that's hit so hard that they end up on a ventilator or in Anchorage, or I know we've got ventilators here, but I think for the more serious cases, they send them to Anchorage anyway. Or they spend, a month in the hospital, $500,000 hospital bill that somebody has to pay for, just because somebody didn't want to take it seriously. Like I said at a previous meeting, I really think that the thinking that everybody's health is their own issue to deal with and nobody should be responsible or held responsible for somebody else's health, I think that needs to change in society. If somebody intentionally infects another person that then has very serious consequences, I think that person that infected them should be held accountable. But that's not something we have any control over, so I'll stop talking about that. There was one other thing that I wanted to mention, but I forgot what it was, so I'll stop.
We'll let you get one final opportunity when everybody else is done, in case you remember. Next, please, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Doug Johnson.
Well, I guess first off, I'd like to welcome Paris. Hopefully this is a bit of an eye-opening experience. You get to see how all the unpleasant things are dealt with.
Yeah.
On another note, Melissa Ford brought up an issue that, I don't know, it bugged me back 20 years ago when I was running a small business. And specifically, it's the collection of sales tax. Would really like to see something change with how we do that. I don't have an answer to that. But I think one of the things that we as a council should maybe be thinking about is how do we go about making small business successful and easy to propagate in our community? I mean, we're down to, there's nobody, I mean, there's bunch of little teeny stuff, but there's nothing that, it's not like it used to be. How do we fix it?
And correct me if I'm wrong, Bryant, there are possibilities for seasonal companies to be able to file on a quarterly basis. We just haven't implemented it yet. Correct?
Yes.
So,
One of the things right now, you fill out your little piece of paper, you come down here, you sit down, you wait for it, you get a copy of it, you go back and forth and back. It takes a lot of time to do that. It shouldn't be that hard to collect sales tax.
well, we are also working on making this a paperless issue where
That would be a really big improvement.
where for those who don't have computers, there would be a computer set up in the lobby area, not the foyer, but the lobby area where the two wing backs are, so that someone could come in and fill it out, and to also have a form that can fix the mistakes that we're typically seeing. which is calculation issues. And we've even looked at possibly going to third-party collector for all of this so that, it'd be a totally online process. Unfortunately, some of our customers pay us in cash. And, that's one issue. So, I think we're taking a look at all of it, but I also know that some people are using old forms and we're still having problems with that. And Bryant, has been working with finance and me to figure out a way to make it easier. But I will tell you that doing it online, even if they don't have a computer at, here in the lobby area, would be a big step for the city.
Well, I think not only the big step for the city, I think the big step should be, aside from the sales tax thing, I think the big step should be, it should be easy to do business at home.
And I agree with that.
Now, I don't know what the impediments are, but maybe that's one of the things we need to sit down and figure out. Are there any really? Maybe there aren't any. But I continually hear that it's hard to do business in the city at all.
Well,
We should figure out what that is, find out why it is, and if it's a real problem, we should fix it. If it's not a real problem, then we should figure out how to educate people so that it's not.
well, one of the problems has been the last year and a half, 2 years, because of COVID, is not doing a seasonal sales tax. We take it on, we put it in effect, we pull it out of effect. And I think that's one of the issues that needs to be discussed in December or January. Where do we go with this? But I'm really, before I say too much, I want to make sure we have a presentation for you and to know where we stand, because
Well, just to be clear from my side, this is not a new problem. This has been going on for years and years and years, probably decades. So,
I'm only relating to what I've heard.
right, so that's what I want to tell you is there's a bigger box of issues, or appears to be a bigger box of issues than since you've been here. So, that's all.
Okay, thank you.
That was my 2 cents.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Doug.
Councilmember Mark Johnson.
I'll just have quick 5 things. One is welcome to Paris. Even your comments tonight were really helpful, and I know that you'll do a good job, and appreciate you stepping up and doing this. Second thing is, thank you very much to the people who do come and give citizens comments, either via, at the city council meeting or outside the city council meeting. It's really helpful for all of us to try to make decisions. It's difficult. In this case, we have emergency ordinance because reaction to something that's happening right now. And so we are dealing in a short amount of time, but one thing that's difficult to do is to get enough public opinion when things come out. And that's the benefit of having the 2 readings of something so that people can get more information and be able to participate. And it's oftentimes difficult when it comes out on a Friday and make a decision on a Monday for people to even know that it's out there. So I do appreciate the ones that are paying attention, that are looking for this and to give their comments. The next thing I was going to mention was regarding the sales tax. Again, that's keeping in. One thing that I've heard from several business owners and I think city staff, that the fluctuating sales tax rates is really difficult to navigate, or makes it more difficult to navigate for the business owner and for staff to have to deal with it. And a lot of mistakes are made through that. And I think that when we look at that along with other revenue sources, that I've heard several business owners say, just set one rate and make it there. It'll be much easier doing business knowing what one rate is. So that's something to consider. The fourth thing is, I saw a letter to the editor for Anchorage Daily News from a trooper that spoke to domestic violence, and I thought he made a couple of good points that bring home to Nome And one is that by the time that the officer is on the scene for domestic violence, it's basically too late. The domestic violence has already happened most of the time, or a lot of times it's already happened, and then that impact on that individual lasts a lifetime. And it's something to be cognizant about and to remember as a community to stand up against domestic violence. I heard we had 46 so far this year, according to the police report. And we got to remember that for the police officers to make sure that they give them enough training, that they do their reports so that they can give the DA something to work with. And that's very important. And the last thing I have to make comments about is in order to encourage more business in Nome and with the port potentially coming and it sounds like we have a pretty business mind with the council wanting to encourage business, is that we have zoning downtown which really prohibits people to improve their properties, or we have a number of vacant buildings, and it's really difficult for new owners to look at it with our current zoning. We have a 10-foot setback on Front Street properties, which should really be up to the sidewalk, and probably 0 lot lines, as most cities do. And we need to take a look at that from a zoning standpoint to help encourage business to improve their properties, and also for people looking at possibly buying some of the vacant properties that are on there and doing something with them. It's really difficult with our existing zoning, at least for Front Street. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Topgolf.
Well, first I'd just like to say welcome to Adjunct. Really exciting to have you at our city council meetings and participating, and I look forward to hearing everything you have to share. I think we're very lucky to have you. Just on COVID, for anybody who might be listening, highly encourage people to take precautions, whether that's washing your hands, staying 6 feet apart, not having large gatherings, get vaccinated if you can, please. We're very fortunate right now that our youth, our children can be in school in person. We know that they do better when they have education in that in-person setting. I know teachers do a lot better in that kind of a situation, and it's really, we need to prioritize our youth and ensure that we're doing everything we can to protect them, to protect our elders who are also susceptible to COVID and other disease, and to look out for one another. I know there's a tendency to want to say, oh, well, I can do what I want and who cares? To a certain extent, yeah, sure, under the legal system, the Western legal system, yeah, you can not get vaccinated and you can go to the bars and you can infect other people, but at the end of the day, is that really the kind of priorities we want to have as a community, especially this community? So I just hope that people take into consideration how your actions may impact others and the ripple effects that it can have. It's very frustrating, and I do worry, because again, my husband doesn't have a choice. He's having to go to the schools. If he goes down, I'm going with him. And Paris is probably going down too. Our other youth, so I hope it doesn't come to that, but it is a very real concern as stress around everyday life, and just it doesn't need to be that way. Especially we're a small community, we're a rural community, we can do better. That's all.
Thank you. Did you think of your other thing? And Mr. Hebel, would you like to make any comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you for this great opportunity. I really just want to thank all of you that you gave the school your trust to elect me, and you trusted the youth. It feels very it feels good to have that trust from an older generation to the younger one, that you want to hear from us. And I want to say thank you for that. I want to say thank you for welcoming me here. And I also wanted to just say that in regards of COVID, it doesn't just affect yourself when you choose not to be smart. It affects the whole community. And if we are taking it lightly in one area, it could still affect other areas, such as like if we're saying like if you're not vaccinated, then that's your fault. You're not protecting yourself and you get COVID. It's still irresponsible to the other community members, and it can be harmful towards the whole community and not just the unvaccinated people that are too stubborn to get it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you. All right, moving on then to mayor's comments, just a couple. While the item this evening didn't move to into passage, there was some good discussion around it, I think, and maybe brings a little bit more awareness. Certainly, we're hoping that we don't have to have this come up on the agenda again, but there's not to say that it won't be, next week or the following week. If the case numbers in this community, right now it looks like they're going downwards, but if they start going up again, we'll be talking about this again and considering additional action. It's, I guess, kind of exciting in my mind to be reading about some of these trials that are going on right now, and the fact that it seems that vaccination ability for kids down to 5 may be on the horizon here in the next little bit. And it's we've got our young folks and our old folks that we worry about, and hopefully here we can breathe a little bit easier when they do have an opportunity to be protected. I want to wish the best to my fellow mayor Bronson in Anchorage, and hope he doesn't come down with COVID. He just, I guess, was a close contact with someone, and I'd encourage him to wear a mask once in a while. Thank you, Paris. Welcome. I'm glad to have you here. And sometimes things seem to move fast along the way, but don't hesitate to ask us questions, and we'll value your input. And I think this probably was a very good meeting for you to have for your first one. Some of them are pretty darn boring. As Glenn mentioned, he and I will be joining Joy in Anchorage for the Alaska Harbor Master Conference, and making some presentations on Thursday. Just passing on, both for the Nome community and the regional community here, that there was a message here from someone that was experiencing some unsafe conditions in homes, and that my understanding is that the Bering Sea Women's Group actually has a safe home representative in every community. If you don't know who your safe home representative is in a surrounding community, you can call them and get that information. And they have somebody there 24 hours a day at BSWG here in town. And just remember to put that 907 in front of their number as of today, 907-443-5444. And I believe they have a 800 number that comes in from the villages as well, that probably is available on their website, and I should have looked that up. But their regular number, 907-443-5444. And just want to wish everybody a happy Halloween. Stay safe. Watch out for the little trick-or-treaters or big ones that will be out running around. Hopefully costumes are not too dark so that we're not having a lot of goblins out there, but maybe some ghosts in lighter colored attire. And just watch out for the youth that will be out on Halloween. With that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.